All right, in this video, let's talk about vertex edge graphs and how they kind of work. So each vertex of a vertex edge graph represents a rest stop in a forest. An edge containing the vertices indicates the rest stops are connected. So basically the edges are hiking trails. Write an adjacency matrix, T, that represents the edge graph. And then tell me, what does matrix T squared represent? Okay, so we have A, B, C, and D. So we can just write that down the side. Okay, so I've got A. You know what? Let me change colors. Okay, so we'll have A, B, C, and D. You know what? I need a little bit more space. Okay, so I got A, B, C, and D, and then I have A, B, C, and D. All right, so here I'm setting up my adjacency matrix. Okay, I think I'll put some lines on here just to try to keep it organized. That's a little crooked, but whatever. Okay, so now, you can't have a trail that's connected to itself. You can't have a campsite connected to itself. So there won't be any numbers along the diagonal. Okay? There is a trail between A and B. All right, there's one trail between A and B. All right, so I'll put ones here between A and B. Here's another trail between A and C. So there will be ones here and here as well. There's another trail. There are two trails between A and D. So that's why I'm going to put a 2 here and a 2 here. Okay. There's a trail between B and C. So there'll be a 1 here. There's no trail between B and D. Wait, so let me go back. So there's a trail between B and C. So that's going to be here and here. There's no trail between B and D, so that'll be a 0 here and a 0 here. Okay, there's no trail between C and D. So those will be zeros here and here. So this is my adjacency matrix, and we're supposed to call this matrix T. So matrix T equals that. All right, now we're supposed to say, imagine that we had T squared. Does it say we have to find T squared? Just what does T squared represent? Okay, T squared. So look, you guys, if this is matrix T, and I'm not going to fill it in again, and then I have T squared. Here's what you need to understand about the wording of this question. The numbers inside the matrix that's being squared or whatever boils down to the number of ways you can do whatever they're talking about. The exponent, you know, if you're squaring it or cubing it or whatever, that tells you how many edges you're using. So this is just very general. But so if I square a matrix, the numbers inside tell me how many ways I can do whatever they're talking about. And the 2 would mean I'm going to use 2 edges. So in this case, we're talking about campsites and trails. So instead of edges, I'm not going to say edges, I'm going to say trails. So each element of matrix T squared would tell you the number of ways you can get from campsite to campsite using exactly 2 trails. I'm just going to pause and write that down. So again, as you look over my little answer, my explanation, look for these two key concepts. The numbers, the elements of the matrix, that's the number of ways, and the exponent is the number of edges. So that's why I'm saying each element of t squared tells us the number of ways you can get from one campsite to another using exactly 2 trails. Instead of saying 2 edges, I'm saying 2 trails because that's what the problem is about. But that's the idea. All right, for number 11, let's see, I have Arizona, California. I'm trying to kind of put these in alphabetical order. California, Nevada.
Do we have to put down?
No. And Utah. So it's AZ, CA, NV, and UT. Okay, so when I do my adjacency matrix, easy. It's not time yet. So now I'm all ready to fill in this adjacency matrix. So the question is, well, okay, a state cannot share a border with itself. So that means all along this diagonal, I'll have zeros to show that Nevada cannot share a border with Nevada. All right, on the other hand, okay, how about Arizona and California? Yeah, Arizona and California share a border right there. So that's why I'm going to put a 1 there between Arizona and California. All right, and that'll go in both places, Arizona and California again. What about Arizona and Nevada? Sure, Arizona and Nevada share a border as well. So I'm going to put a 1 here and here. What about Arizona and Utah? Yep, boom, right there. Arizona and Utah share a border. So I'm going to put a 1 here and here. All right? Let me erase these marks. Okay, what about California and Nevada? Sure, California and Nevada share a border. So I'm going to put a 1 here and here. What about California and Utah? Ooh, California and Utah do not touch. So I'm going to put a 0 here and here for them. Okay, let me erase that mark. So that just leaves Nevada. Nevada and Utah, do they share a border? Sure, Nevada and Utah share a border right here. So that's why I'll have a 1 here and a 1 here. So this is my adjacency matrix. Now they're asking what information will we have if we cube this matrix. So imagine that I took this matrix. I'm not going to rewrite it. Just pretend that the matrix was inside of these brackets. And then I cubed it. The numbers inside, right, as I mentioned in the previous problem, the numbers inside would represent the number of ways you do whatever the problem is about. And then the exponent tells you the number of edges. I almost spelled edges wrong. In fact, let me rewrite that. That looks ugly. All right, so we have ways, and then the exponent is edges. Now in this problem, instead of edges, we're going to say borders, right? Because we're talking about whether or not these states have borders in common. Okay, so let's see what we can come up with. Okay, so each entry of the cubed matrix would represent the number of ways we can travel from one state to another crossing 3 borders. So again, the entries always represent the number of ways. The exponent tells you how many edges are involved. But like in the previous problem, instead of edges, the edges represented trails. So instead of edges, we said the number of trails. In this problem, instead of edges, we're talking about borders. So instead of saying 3 edges, we'll say 3 borders. So one more time, each entry of a cubed matrix would represent the number of ways you can travel from one state to another, crossing 3 borders. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.